All right, hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name is Brett Pontecorvo, and we are here every Thursday, usually an hour later. However, this Thursday we have shifted ourselves back a little bit because we have a very special guest coming on today that you are really going to enjoy. Special guest Askin, who does a wide range of musical things. We're going to talk about all of them, as well as how he's using Gig Performer to power those things. But if you are in the chat right now, do write in and let us know, are you gigging with any MPE capable devices? If so, we would love to hear from you. Tell us what you're using. Tell us why you're using it. I know we've got Harry tuning in from Austria. We're so happy to have you, Harry, and I know that you are gigging with some MPE-capable devices. If you haven't checked out Harry's live streams, there are actually two different ones. They're both fantastic, so do check out Harry's live streams. We've got Dave Bolden popping on. Is there anyone else from the UK? Do let us know. And, of course, Glenn Short. Always happy to have you, Glenn. Such a pleasure. Okay, while I wait for some answers to come in, if you're gigging with an MPE capable device, let us know. I do want to let you know that next week we have special guest Leo Diaz coming on. And if you take a look at this very interesting picture, what you might notice is that there is Gig Performer hidden on what may appear to be a gaming device. And that is because, yes, indeed, Gig Performer is installed on a Windows-capable gaming device and strapped down to his pedal board. So you are looking at his live performance setup right here. Gig Performer on the smallest little gaming PC that I have ever seen. A little bit of Velcro, we're plugged in, and we are good to go. So do make sure if you are around next week, which that'll put us at what? The 14th, the 7th? The 14th. Do stop by. This is going to be a really interesting episode because it's totally, problem solving at its best. How do I make my setup as small as possible, but still have all of the power possible? And this is, I think, a pretty creative answer. So, all right, folks, thank you for, let's see. We've got Harry saying that he uses, we can't see it, the Rolly Seaboard. Which is awesome. Dave, I have an Osmos, but no plans to take it out gigging. Cool. We'll talk about that a little bit today. Dave, maybe we'll sway you. Maybe we'll sway you today. I don't know. We'll see. I want to see that Gig Performer setup. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Without further ado, I want to welcome on today's special guest to Backstage with Gig Performer, Ali Askin. Ali, welcome to Backstage.
Hello, welcome to Brett. Hi, nice to be here.
Oh man, it's such a pleasure. So, for folks who don't know much about you, you're a composer, you're a musician, you play in just about every scenario. Can you give us kind of the overview of what is your career in music and what do you do?
Well, to make a long story really short, I studied composition, classical composition.
Yeah.
I'm born in Germany, Munich, and raised there. I studied in Munich classical composition, but simultaneously always played jazz and rock and pop bands and whatever I could find to play live. And also after studying, I tried to make a living, and so I ended up working in theater and playing, theater shows, and that eventually.
So sorry.
Here in Germany,
for one moment I lost you. Can you go back to the theater show part?
Okay, I did music for theater and played also in theaters, and then that led me eventually go into film and TV music. So I started writing music for TV shows here in Germany and did a couple of international shows too. So I made a pretty long career in film scoring.
Okay.
I may say I was pretty successful. Got a the German Film Award for a production, and but all the time I was also still playing in bands and trying to play live,
Hmm.
just more or less for the fun of it. And I'm
Yeah.
still going on and trying to play live.
Yeah.
And most people, and internationally, the most people know me from the work with Frank Zappa. I was his assistant for a couple of projects, and so I was working in the '90s in Los Angeles with him during one of his last projects before he
Gotcha.
died.
So, did you work with Robert Martin?
No,
Okay.
he
Okay.
was the band. His Frank's last band was from '88, and I worked there '91 and '92, and also
Gotcha.
'93.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. All right. So, and this is maybe like a bit outside of the scope, but like, what's the thing that is the that you've been able to do that feels the most special to you? Like when you look back and you look at everything that you've done, what thing makes you go, man, that was really meaningful to me? I I didn't prep you for that question, but I'm just curious because you've been all over the scope.
Well, I can't really pinpoint it to one single moment in my life.
Yeah.
It's more like a chain of things that I thought like, well, this led to this, and
Mm.
um, of course, meeting Frank Zappa, who was my idol of my youth, and then be able to work with him, that was like a key moment in my life, of course.
Mm.
But also, to write music, and my kids liked my music. That was also great.
Yeah.
So
Man,
it's
that's
I
special.
can't really point it to a one single moment.
Okay, I
Yeah.
hear I hear that. Okay, so based off what you've shared here, I'm assuming you've been through a lot of different software solutions. Is that true?
Yeah, you can bet.
What was the first one? Where did you start? What was the first like I'm going to try and bring my computer on stage with me moment for you?
That was in '99. I was doing some electronic ambient show with projections in a little cafe, and I used Logic. No, I'm sorry, Studio Vision. If
Mhm.
anybody can remember, I was using Studio Vision. That was my sequencer from Upcode,
Okay. Wow.
because you had those little nice little buttons where you could start single sequences, and very early on they had this possibility to start sequences with MIDI controller commands.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
had I had my then laptop, which was called PowerBook, remember? And
PowerBook. Wow. Yeah.
this
Okay.
was firing, and Studio Vision was firing my Akai sampler. I had an Akai sampler.
Mhm.
And then there was, and now simultaneously, I used a little software called Lisa, which was short for Live Sampler, which had been developed by a institution in Netherlands where they do like music technology, scientific research called Steim. I don't know whether they still exist, but I think so.
Mhm.
And they had a live sampler where you would just sample into a big buffer and would could manipulate the samples that you had recorded before or were recording live uh, with the MIDI controller, and go in there and do loops and all live, and that was with MIDI controllers. So that was my first tryout.
Okay. And what was the why behind attempting it? Were you just kind of into the gear and into the tech, or were you trying to do something you couldn't do with hardware, or how did that end up happening?
No, I didn't have any hardware which had that capabilities like Lisa, or preparing some sequences and firing it up, and recording stuff live and manipulating the audio directly. That was easier with the software.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And how is it working? Like, I mean, this is like
And
super
so
early days.
it worked really nice. I mean, I how do you say? I just I adjusted what I did live to what was possible,
Mm-hmm.
so it worked really nice. I mean, in that framework of ambient electronics, it was with in a cafe, everything was dark and they had like projections. It was nice.
Yeah.
Similar to what many people did in the early days of in club music and in the techno ambient
Mm-hmm.
genre.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's really awesome. So, is this? Do you still play ambient music much now, or have you kind of, when you're playing with a band, have you moved over genres, or how does that?
No, I don't do that. Just occasionally, if something comes up, but I don't haven't done it for a long time.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Wow. So, okay, you said this was
I just
90.
wanted to add to that 99. So I really and because you were talking to the other guy who had Ableton Live version 2,
Yeah.
I had version 1.
Whoa. Whoa. So, okay, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Version 1 was just
and
like
even earlier,
samples, right? Like you.
yeah, yeah, it was just the session view, and I can't really recall exactly, but I had even an earlier prototype version because Robert Henke, who was one of the guys who invented Ableton Live, was in my school, and we still have contact. But he was much younger than me. He was 8 years, and we didn't really hang around at school. But we found out when we met later in Berlin that he was in the same school like me. He gave me a really early version of Ableton Live when it was still just a little application that he had written. I think it was just MIDI. I can't really remember. That was like 99,
Wow.
91, 99 or 2000 before number one, before version one.
Wow, that is wild. Okay, so you have used Ableton then probably longer than most people. Like it would be hard to be a longer time Ableton user than you. In in your
I think
opinion,
so.
in your opinion, what do you feel like Ableton's superpower is? Like, in what circumstance do you use it now because you feel like there's just nothing better than Ableton for this task?
When I use it almost exclusively in session view, and the session view for me has such a great flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just as the name is, it's made for live, and for live, it was just unbeatable. You can see by Logic copying it now.
Yeah.
It's a perfect concept for playing live with loops. And as they went on and did more and more sophisticated features and added stuff, it got better and better. So it's the overview that you have, and I also have now the push. I've been using push a lot. It's great. It's also for theater music. It just works fine.
Mm-hmm. And what do you
I
use it
haven't
for with
haven't
theater
found any
music?
software which.
Like, you
Hmm?
use it for sample triggering when you're playing theater music?
Yes, sample triggering. I had one show where I am playing the grand piano, and I'm picking up the grand piano signal with two microphones which go into Ableton. And what I do is I just treat the signal with audio plugins,
Mm.
but simultaneously also play loops, samples. So and this
Mm-hmm.
is just I'm just Ableton in this
Mm-hmm.
scenario.
And what would you say, while we're on the topic of superpowers, what would you say Gig Performer's superpower is that Gig Performer does better than any other software?
Gig Performer for me is a traditional kind of keyboard player.
Mm-hmm.
Just is such a great tool for in sort of bringing your keyboard rig into the future by
Mm.
making it smaller to bring everything to software, but also to be able to be really very very flexible what you do with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
You know,
That's
the routing possibilities. That's unmatched. I haven't seen anything like it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. The more I kind of talk to folks who are familiar with Ableton and Gig Performer, the more I hear folks doing what you're doing, where they're using the superpowers of the programs to build something that feels yeah, like it's maximizing potential, you know, like you're using the routing and the stability and the flexibility of Gig Performer, and you're doing some sample triggering, or you're doing some of the more Ableton specific things inside Ableton. It's very, very interesting. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, unless I cut you off, did you have another thought on this, Ali?
Fine. It's all fine.
Okay, so I wanna talk a little bit about how you found Gig Performer, and then I want to make sure we get to show folks your band and kind of talk through what you're doing, because you have a really cool Stream Deck setup. I don't want to give away too much too soon. What were you using before Gig Performer? What was your last software before you moved over to Gig Performer?
Okay, I started very early in the 2000s. I was using more hardware stuff. I had the Korg SV1 was one of the first keyboards, emulate vintage keyboards very nicely,
I love the
and I had
SV1.
a Nord
Loved it.
lead and stuff like that. But then yeah, and they, in that time they were great, but I wanted to extend my palette of sounds. I wanted to incorporate some of the plugins that had been developed, like what you have in Contact, instrument, string stuff, weird stuff, ambient stuff, and the other instruments were always stuck for me in classical keyboard sounds. So I started using first Logic, of course, but that didn't really work. But that day, Apple came up with the main stage, so I started doing main stage. But it was around 2012. I had a big problem with, I don't know, it got very slow and sluggish, and I had hanging notes, and it was really a drag. And I don't know how I found out about Gig Performer. I don't know. I can't really tell.
Mm-hmm.
So in one of those late night sessions when you sit in front of the computer and you're browsing YouTube and looking at there's a
Yeah.
test, here's a new plugin, here's a new, what the fuck is that? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So.
What is that? I was just browsing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really tell. I was I think somewhere on YouTube, somebody mentioned it, and then I looked at pictures, on the Gig Performer website, and I just said, well, I'll just give it a try, and then boom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And did that shift the way that you work? Like, did it let you do things you couldn't do in main stage because of stability?
Yep. Not only stability and not only that, but also the routing and splitting stuff, and incorporating Ableton and all that stuff. That was all of a sudden it was possible. And plus one thing we talked about that earlier, audio is so it's the latency is great for live playing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's how the program reacts. It's you can compare it to main stage. I think it's a much better feel when you use Gig Performer.
Yep. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that's just one point.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do think it's been my experience. It seems like it's maybe yours as well. When you have the ability to send anything anywhere, you end up doing that. Whereas when you're
Yeah.
kind of thinking in a more linear channel strip based path, you kind of take the fastest route to get a particular result with as little routing as possible because it's a drag. But when you're connecting, cables, you're like, I wonder what happens if I do this. And the cost is so low that you really do end up
Yeah.
coming up with things you wouldn't otherwise. Which is kind of cool.
It's positive side. It's cool, but it's also dangerous
Tell me
because
more about that.
you
Tell me more
start
about that.
that you have to be disciplined. You have to maybe first think about what you want to achieve, and be careful that you don't get lost in the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So what I experienced is that when I started a new setup, and this is really easily happening because once you play a gig and you find out, okay, I want to do this, I have to change that, and that you don't take your time to really work your setup. It really needs time to find the optimum. How do you say the best way to do things and set it up. And I think somebody said it on the blog. It's don't make it too complicated. Try to, as much as possible, try to think straight and the most easiest way, not too complicated, but maybe just separate the time where you work on your live rig and set up, and then take your own time to just experiment and try stuff out. And I did that with I had a gig where didn't take my time to really set up the rig very carefully. It was just not enough time, so I had really big problems on stage because I couldn't. Of course, while you're playing, you don't understand. You don't know where a signal is going, why it's hissing, where the delay is still going on, and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. That happened to me. That you should really be careful with that, I
Mm-hmm.
thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I work with a small group of folks on weekends doing like a keyboardist cohort type thing. And one of the massive things that we talk about is being project minded, where before you start kind of building and
Yeah.
connecting, you're kind of like, what do I actually need to accomplish here? And if you're smart about it, you can kind of, to your point with space, if you're smart about it, you can leave yourself room on the back end to create the things you wished you had, but from a finished product, as
Mhm.
opposed to you're experimenting on the front end.
Yeah.
Your gig is in 2 weeks. You show up at the gig with a lot of like cool bells and whistles, but you forgot all about your project. It's it's amazing what folks have come up
You
with.
forgot that one cable.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm reading the blogs, and it's fantastic what you can do with it. And I wanted to say one thing. I mean, we're talking about the technical side of the program.
Mm-hmm.
I think one other very important aspect of Gig Performer is the community.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
found so many helpful hints and stuff that I don't know any other program in the audio world where you have that kind of community where people just are so open and helpful.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's a really really important point in using Gig Performer for me.
If you're watching right now and you're on the Gig Performer forums, go ahead and let us know that in the comments. When I first came on the Gig Performer team, David was talking about how good the forum community was, and he was talking about it so highly that I just didn't believe him. Like I was like, there's no, there's no way that it's that good. Um, and obviously I was wrong. I guess the only way to know truly for yourself is to go on there. But yeah, folks answer so quickly and with such thoroughness and are so helpful. I've not seen it anywhere else. It really is quite unreal.
Mm.
That is a good point for sure. I've learned
It's a
so much
joy.
from there.
It's really a joy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a joy, and it's really it's fun. It's unbelievable what people just offer for nothing. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I wish I could program as well as some of those guys and offer something.
Yes. Yes. Harry just wrote in, yes, we love the community. Johnny the PT just wrote in, the forum
Right.
is it. Yeah, I mean, truly, truly is. It's something else. Okay. So you sent me some videos that I want to share with folks because I want everybody to see what you're doing in action. But I also want to kind of look at your Gig Performer setup. So can you tell us about the band that I'm about to play? Like what recording or who are you playing with in this
Okay.
video?
This is my live band project. I'm still make my living by writing for film and TV.
Mm-hmm.
but I try to also maintain a live band. I'm trying to play live and get gigs. But since life has been such a hard business now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really make a living with that. It's more or less to to stay in shape,
Mm-hmm.
but also fun, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And this year was pretty good. Last year also, and what we're going to watch now is a recording. We did a little studio concert here in Berlin in summer. That's why in the video everybody's sweating like hell. It was so hot, and we did a little like a 40-minute concert, just a test concert before we played on a festival. We played at Zapanali, where I think Bobby Martin also played,
Awesome.
and yeah, we recorded that in the studio. It's all live, no overdubs, and the mix is pretty rough. It's not really a polished product yet, but the visuals are there already, but the audio still needs some mixing.
Okay.
And this is my band. This is the regular band. It's different folks from the jazz scene here in Berlin, and yeah, and the rig that it's has been used, my gig performer rig here in the video, has already been changed. And
Yes.
today I have a different rig now, but built on that. And people probably know that you change your rig all the time, you know.
Yes. But it's well, I'll play it first. It's changed, but it's more like evolved. You didn't uproot the whole thing. You just let it grow. You let it reach the next stage of its evolution.
Yeah.
All right. And well, here I'll play it first, and we'll go from there. Woo! All right, so some serious groove happening here. Man, okay. Can you talk us through? I have so many questions. So let's start with the Stream Deck. What's happening here? What's going on in this in this section?
Okay. It's really easy. I have two plugins here in action.
Mm-hmm.
One plugin is a plugin called Things, uh, excuse me, Noises by Audio Thing.
Okay. Okay.
And in Noises, you have a little in the software plugin, you have a knob called Trigger, and you can trigger that knob with any kind of MIDI signal.
Mm-hmm.
So in Stream Deck, I have one key assigned to a note that triggers noises.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a couple of knobs which tweak the sound of the plugin, which is pitch, and there's some modulation going on where you can change the speed,
Mm-hmm.
you can change the volume of it. And so I'm playing that with those knobs. At the same time, on the left side of the Stream Deck, I have the plugin is Zebra by Yuhi. Yuhe, I don't know how you say it in
Yes.
English.
Depends who you ask.
The company, the software company.
But I do know the synth. Somebody
Yeah.
on Backstage
Well,
had
Germans
shared that
say
it's
Uhe.
amazing. Okay.
Zebra is famous,
Mm-hmm.
the famous synth.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Zebra in Gig Performer, and I have just a note, a note in Stream Deck programmed, I don't know, C3 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that just plays that synth, and but I change the pitches and the sounds and the filter cutoff with the knobs. That's all I do.
Really cool. Really cool. I love it. And you were so for
Yeah.
folks who are watching, we now have a Stream Deck extension, but this was pre-Stream Deck extension, wasn't it? This is before we had the official support.
Yeah.
So, so
Yeah.
now
There's a set of, sorry.
it's okay.
There's a set when you can download a set of pre-programmed. I don't know how you call it. A set of knob actions,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like MIDI notes on off, program change, blah blah blah. All those
Mm-hmm.
standard things you can assign knobs and buttons.
Yes. Yes. Really, really cool. There was another one. If we have time, I want to show. Actually, maybe we should just do it. Do you know do you remember which number was where you're taking a solo on the Rolly? And then we'll look at your setup. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head.
I think it's number 3.
You think it's number 3?
Video 3.
All right, let me see if I can pull it up because it's.
Yeah.
I feel like it's worth showing. This band is serious. The music coming out of these folks is serious. Yeah, it's number 3. So I'm gonna play this here. Do you guys have anything released that people can check out? Like, you do. What's the name?
Yeah,
of
if
your
you
group?
go on my website, I mean, it's our Ali and Askin and band.
Okay. Okay.
Very, very easy. It's where I released a record in December. It's out with a couple of these tracks that you can hear in the video.
Okay. All right. Let's have a listen to this. It's 44 seconds. Then we'll jump into the screen share and talk about what's powering all of this. But this is a wild take. So here we go. Woo, man. Well, first of all, just so cool. But second of all,
it was a hot summer.
It was a hot summer. Your
Thank you.
band is so solid. They do not move at all. I'm listening to them and I'm like, man, they're so serious. So good. Really powerful stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
So why Rolly Seaboard?
Well, I think it applies to most keyboard players. That is an instrument that you can do. All of a sudden, you could do things that you couldn't do on regular keyboards.
Yes.
I'm always interested in playing microtonal stuff, and also beyond pitch bending, also play the notes in between and all that. So when it came up, I really jumped for it. I still love the instrument, and in combination with Equator, I think it's English way to pronounce it. Equator, the software synth they have, it just sounds great, and it's fun to play. And what we see here is Mark II, which has better, the better keys where you can find the right pitch much better. So it does and do things that you can't do with other keyboards. But the problem is, and this is why I don't use it that much anymore. That's right.
was trying to show your rig while you were talking about
Okay.
it, but instead we got a second solo. So let me try this one more time.
Um,
Okay, there we go. So how do we know that this is the Mark II? Like, what sticks out about this? Like, is the shape of the keys different?
um, the frame. No, it has some little markings on each key,
I see.
which where you, you feel those when you play, so you know that's the center of the key, and that's the right pitch.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
It's You can see it in that screenshot, and
Yep.
also you see the frame is light. It's
Yep.
aluminum, silver. That's new.
Yep. Yep.
So the problem is with the keyboard. I found out I needed a bigger keyboard. You see, I have a small Korg micro keyboard
Mm-hmm.
in between,
Yep.
because I need three keyboards, and I really like to have everything in front of me, but this was not possible. But that the small keyboard is not really that, how do you say, not that practical for certain things to play, so it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I found the Novation, the SL61,
Mm-hmm.
I jumped onto the big one. So I moved the Rolly to my right hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have it just exactly in front of you, for me it was too hard to to play it comfortably.
Mm. Gotcha. Gotcha. Um.
And since I had started, I'm one of the earlier supporters of Osmos.
Mm-hmm.
I really jumped on the train really early. I have an Osmos now instead of the Rolly next to me, right on the right hand
Awesome.
side.
So, can we show your current rig? I'll pop the screen share over so we can see your phone, and can you show us what your current setup is? Let's see here. Okay.
Okay, so here's the laptop next to me. By the way, I found this. This is a case through reading in the forum.
Oh wow.
Somebody had posted a picture where he has his stuff in there, and I thought I need exactly this to put the laptop in and just cover it and transport it. So this is my audio interface and the laptop,
Wow. Okay.
and this is my main keyboard, which is a Rode A88. Can you see that?
Yep. It's beautiful.
So on top I have the Novation SL61.
Are you using it with the extension?
Of course.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Cool.
That's the reason why I bought it. I had before, I can show you. Here's my how do you say, my other keyboards that are just waiting for usage. I
Oh.
had
Okay.
the Arturia 61, which is a great keyboard. I love it very much. But with the extension, the Novation is unbeatable with
Yep.
Gig Performer. It's just fantastic.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, you can see here what I do with the knobs and all that stuff.
Penguins
It's
on TV.
unbelievable good.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the title of one of the pieces.
Uh,
Penguins. So, and then at the end you have a launch station with you see the session view of Ableton.
yep.
So I start here. I can start some loops
Okay.
in Ableton. Here's the Stream Deck.
Nice. Nice. And
Then I have my
with
iPad with the music.
the
Here's the
Stream Deck,
Osmos.
are you? Oh wow. Okay, we'll go back to the Stream Deck. Well, okay. So with the Stream Deck, are you using that to control Gig Performer, or like how are you changing sounds in Gig Performer from the Novation, or what's your primary interface with that?
This is the change that I'm having right now. I used to do much more with the Stream Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Now has changed in so far that with the Stream Deck, I do mostly global instruments and global preferences, like the global mute, global main volume, balance,
Mm-hmm.
tuning fork. Then
Mm-hmm.
I call up here the RME total mix.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a MIDI stop all notes.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have my global instruments, which are rose, clarinet, whirly, and all that. So I can go in
Ha.
here,
Okay.
and these are the controls for my global instruments. So whatever I have globally is controlled by the Stream Deck, and
Gotcha.
whatever is locally just for the spaces, it's over here on the keyboard.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. And I see I'm like loving, so you have some folders on your Stream Deck to make those buttons go further, um,
Yeah,
which is really nice. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So you get swipe here, and you can get to here, and then turn on. And then the knobs also have double function. You can either turn it just that, or you can push it and turn it, and then there's a different function.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
very versatile, and it's really a small footprint. It's fantastic for what
Do
you
you,
get.
do you use any of the knobs or buttons on your Roland?
No,
Okay. We got a question coming in from John
no, because
Barrios. Is the audio routed from
sure,
the laptop audio out or through an interface? Or I think you were just talking about this, but how is your audio
interface.
routed? The interface, yeah. Yep, the RME.
The
Okay.
RME is the reason why I took the RME is because it has 8 outputs, so I can send my mix to front of house and also to a little monitor on stage, to a little amp or to a little PA that I can control myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I also can the output of the Osmose goes audio into the RME.
Okay. So, just because I actually didn't know until I started chatting with you, can you tell us what is the Osmos? Why would you want to use it? What does it do? How did you end up with it?
Okay, let me see if I can. The Osmose. Let me see.
Mm.
The Osmose is a MPE controller,
Yep.
and it has a lot of possibilities to modulate the note. It's very sensitive, so even if you just push a little bit, you have note,
Mm.
and then push beyond what is usually aftertouch. That you can
Right.
wobble the keys in that axis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe another different way to sing.
Huh.
So it's very expressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very expressive controller, and replaces my Rolly with that.
Yep. And
Plus, it has its own tone and sound generation,
mm-hmm.
and this is the only instrument that I have in my setup. If anything happens, I just can take that output and still play.
Mm-hmm.
If the
Mm-hmm. Has anything ever happened?
yes,
Tell me about
to
how
be
you
honest,
handled
yes.
that.
I had I was playing live, and during the rehearsals, I heard some crackling on my output. So I thought that was due to overload in the RAM, but it turns out that I found out later that I had a defective USB cable,
Mm.
which was the USB cable for the output of the RME into the computer.
Wow.
and I didn't know it. So I was playing live, and all of a sudden my audio was gone. I didn't know what it is. I mean, we're just going on. And I just shout to the drummer, "Drum solo!" And I just unplugged everything, and I uh, unplugged the RME and just plugged. We are lucky that the monitor mixers were really alert, smart guys. They had a nice adapter, so I just I changed audio engine in Gig Performer to the MacBook output, so that worked.
Wow. Wow. So serious. And then we double check all of our cables, right? I mean, I've had a couple of other
Please,
folks.
guys.
Yeah. I've had a couple of other folks say similar things because a little bit of cable. I use the Mo 2 M4 and I love it for a whole host of reasons, but I was having some major issues and I replaced the USB cable and all of my issues stopped. So, as it goes. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and pop into Gig Performer so we can take a look at what is going on there.
Yeah.
So you have got like beautiful rack spaces. What do we need to know about what we're seeing?
I try my. Okay, my concept, and this is a concept that I found out within the past few months, that I want to have. How do you say? I want to have two layers. One layer are my global instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I switched to Gig Performer now, so I can show it.
Okay.
Just 1 second. It
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be. I have global instruments, which is my Rhodes, clavinet, Burley, piano, Hammond organ, and Osmose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And you're turning those on and off with your Stream Deck.
these are always on. Yeah, or either Stream Deck or right now I'm turning them on with the you can see here on the keyboard, but it's also programmed. I
Can you show us one more time where you're doing it with the keyboard?
My global.
Gotcha.
You see,
Mm-hmm.
here's the global instruments. I know that there's no tag, but I know these are my global keyboards, and I also have the local keyboards here. I can switch between them here.
Gotcha.
But the local rack space also controls those on and offs of the global instruments. So if I go to a rack space here, you see the Rhodes is in
Yep.
here, and it's on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I know that that piece has my Rhodes. Now, if I go to the other next piece, you see the clavinet is on.
Yep. Yep.
And I have it programmed in such a way that these are radio buttons which belong to one group. So it's either this is on, or this is on, or this is on.
Wow.
You see?
Now, just out of curiosity, are you using the radio buttons extension, or are you using the built-in version of radio buttons? What's in Gig Performer now?
The built-in.
Okay.
It's the built-in where you
Yep.
have, it's one radio group, and that's it.
Gotcha. Okay. I love it. So, and that's because you don't ever layer.
I know I won't use these instruments. Excuse me?
And that's because you don't ever layer these sounds. It's one on or off, only one at a time.
No. If I have, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have layers, I do that with rack spaces. Like
Yep.
here in this piece, for instance, I
Mm-hmm.
have a piano, but green is all my global instruments and blue are the rack spaces locally. I have a keyspace clavinet here simultaneously and simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And this is how it looks.
Okay. So, actually, you're kind of blowing my mind there, just with the like division that you use to create layers makes so much sense. I never think about it that way. But if you have one base layer and then you're using your local rack spaces to add other elements, that ends up bringing a lot of simplicity to your thought process. I've never done that before. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
That's very interesting. Okay,
you
so
see,
tell
you
us
see the
about what we're
local rec
seeing.
spaces
Yeah.
are pretty much,
Go ahead. Finish your thought,
but
Ali.
the global wiring is pretty much more.
Yeah.
That's the global. These are the global objects.
Okay. And what is happening here? What roughly? I'm sure going through every wire would take
This is
forever,
the
but
global. This side is my audio routing.
okay.
So this comes from the rack spaces,
Mhm.
and this is my main mixer for the instrument. And
Okay.
these are the sends. This I built a more or less a mixer.
Okay.
These are my effect sends. This is effect sends. One is reverb. And this is my delay, and they are going in here together into my two bus.
Gotcha.
And the two bus has a has a console
Oh,
and
um
EQ,
did
whatever,
we can't did you open that
and limit
plugin?
stuff.
Or yeah,
Yeah.
we can't see the plugin. I think you've just shared Gig Performer instead of your whole screen.
Oh,
That's okay. If we need to see a
okay.
plugin, we'll just have you reshare, but for now, keep talking through what you have.
Yeah, I've here the plugins which infect the main output.
Mhm. Okay.
And here I have my global instruments. These are the global instruments. This is the piano.
Mhm.
The Rhodes is here. My V8 Pro. Here. The Wurlitzer is actually a mixture of Keyspace and Modart.
Okay.
And then I have my clavinet, which is also Keyspace, and I have a piano, which is from Keyspace,
Mhm.
and here's my organ, which is from Arturia.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
they all go into two rack space, so they go through the local rack space in case I want to add some effects just for that one song.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep, that makes a ton of sense. Then you do have to remember to actually wire it. So it goes through your local rack space, and does it hit your audio
Yeah,
outputs through the local rack space, or you bring it back to the global before it exits? You do. You bring it
back
back.
here from rack space, it comes back
Perfect.
here.
Perfect.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can see here.
Mhm.
Here comes the signal of the. That's a good example. Here, my two bus of the global keys comes in, and I have a big sky reverb here on that output, and
Mhm.
that goes back to the global rack space.
Awesome. And how do you think about your
And I can
physical
control.
keyboards?
Excuse me.
How do you think about your physical keyboards? So do you always have one of your global sounds on the bottom, and then you have these local rack spaces on your Novation?
It depends. It depends.
Mhm.
Mainly, I have the global instruments on the big Roland.
Mhm.
So this is mostly Rhodes and piano,
Mhm.
but sometimes I have layer sounds too.
Okay.
Here you see this piano is mixed with the emulator. But yeah, most of the time the global instruments are on the big Roland on the lower keyboard, and the upper one is doing a lot of strings and pads, effect sounds, and the Osmos is more like for the solos.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And you don't currently run the audio of the Osmos through Gig Performer. That just goes into the RMA. Is that correct?
I do.
Oh, you
I
do.
do. I do. It's coming here. I do, yeah. I It's coming here in here. Here's 5 and 6 is the input of the Osmos,
Okay.
and it goes to that channel.
Okay. And are
So
you
I
ever
can put on
processing?
some reverb to the other ones. And
Okay. But you're not doing anything much past the reverb. Like you're doing most of the audio creation in the Osmos itself.
yes, I do, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
started really new with it, so I'm trying out what I can do with gig performer in manipulating the sound of the osmose, but the osmose is made for being played live, and so you do all the working on the sound itself, on the key.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really much need beside program changes and maybe a little delay or reverb here and there.
You're sending program changes?
Not yet, but I'm trying to do that so that I can program the osmose on a rec space base.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So when you're performing live, it seems like you need to be super duper flexible. So I'm assuming you are not using setlist mode right now. You're
Yeah.
just selecting rack spaces.
No. Yeah. You can see. You see that setup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you see, mostly I have just one or two parts in a per songs,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like this one, and I don't need the set list for that. That makes sense for me.
Yep. Yep. But you do have some like options, and I'm assuming like on this one, Penguins on TV, you've got a couple of different synth options, and you can turn those on and off from the Novation easily.
Yeah,
Yes, so you can bring things in and out. Although it looks like
exactly.
you don't have any volume controls.
Exactly.
Is that because you just have your levels set up fine, or is that in the global rack space?
It's first of all, it's pre-programmed. I have these faders on the Novation,
Mm-hmm.
so I can balance it out with my hand with the
Mm-hmm.
with the mixer.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. What's your favorite
But
synth to solo on?
I have some
If you had to pick one.
the favorite synth.
Yeah, like if you're taking a solo
Diva.
specifically, the Diva.
Diva. Diva and the osmosis great. With the Rolly, I really like the Equator,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What
But
what
Diva
about
is
what about
I
Diva do you like?
go to
Why does
more
that
different.
why is that superior for you?
It feels like an analog synth. I mean, it's so close to me.
Mm-hmm.
It has a warm sound and reacts nicely, and the filters sound good.
Mm-hmm.
Feels good.
Mm-hmm. And that's another Yuhi product, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, folks, if you are watching right now and you have questions for Ali, do write them in. We've already hit an hour. Wow, time goes fast when we're chatting, Ali. I think our pre-stream meeting also was like 90 minutes. But folks, if you have questions about how
Yeah.
he's running his setup or whatever, pop them in there. Ali's just a wealth of information. So yeah, let us know in the chat. I have a question for you just about the setup I'm looking at, which is how often do you change this? Like it seems like we're several iterations at this point into your setup. When you add a new piece, do you start from a template? Like what is that process like for you?
It depends on the piece. When it's close to another piece in terms of instrumentation and instruments used. I just copy a rec space and work from there.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, it
I
once you
try to save favorite.
say that again.
I try to save favorites, rec spaces, and review stuff as templates. But since I've been changing constantly, it's one day it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's obsolete already, and I have to do stuff from scratch. I wanted to show you one cool thing,
Yeah.
which is we were talking about about what you can do in Gig Performer, which is really impossible in any other software for playing live. So I have a piece here, which is where I basically play one pattern, one chord pattern on the Rhodes and on the synth.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was recording that piece, I played that live on my Rhodes, and then overdub later a synth to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a minimal music piece, turned funky Latin kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
But live, it's really a hard thing to play all the time on those heavy keys. So I also on in the community in the forum I found a plugin for chord memory, which is called Cthulhu.
Yes.
You see that name up there.
Uh-huh. I know it well.
So I don't know whether you know that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a chord which goes through all the time through this piece, can you hear that?
Yep.
It's like a F minor 7 9 13 whatever.
Yeah, with B flat in the
And
bass.
I programmed, and yeah, and when you look at the keyboard, you can see, oh man, just right now, the keyboard, the my iPhone has just run out of power.
Oh, no
So
worries. No worries.
I programmed Cthulhu, and with can you see that? No, you can't see that. It's too big. Um, you can program key zones
Oh,
colors on the keyboard.
if you if you unshare and reshare your screen and choose your whole screen, I'll be able to see it.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be too hard to do if you want to give it a shot.
I can do it, but unshare.
Yep.
I stop sharing. Yeah.
Then when you share your
So
screen,
on the keyboard, yeah.
just choose your whole window
No,
instead of
it's
Gig
on
Performer.
the keyboard.
Say that again.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
It's on the keyboard. I don't know. It's not. You cannot see the camera.
Oh, right. Oh, I see. Okay, hold
Wait a
on.
second.
You're just okay.
I will try to move the laptop. Wait a second.
I see. I see.
Because it's really cool. You see here?
The camera is a little bit delayed, so. Oh yeah, I see you. I see you. Mm-hmm.
You see? You have
Oh
the
yeah.
zones.
Uh-huh.
This is one chord. This is another one. And this is another one. And this is another one. And this is another one. So I play through this piece, I play all the time. And then while I play, because I can play this with one hand and the other one opens the filter of the diva. So I can have nice little color changes while hand plays. So this is impossible with any other software. I don't know how I would do it in any other software.
Yeah.
Plus, in combination with the color coding of the key zones, it's fantastic.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That is really cool. John Barrios wants to know if you use CC or PC. I'm not sure in what context, but
No, I don't use yet program changes. I'm doing mostly CCs. It's all control messages.
Yep. Yep. That's where I kind of live myself as well. So you've got the Cthulhu, which you're basically using as a chord trigger, but Cthulhu also does chord randomization, right? Like you can, yeah. So Cthulhu is like very powerful. It can spit out a lot of different stuff. I was working.
No,
Go ahead.
it's so cool because these are each key has a different way of programming this chord, because these are like these are like 7 notes. So each one has a different velocity relation. So it doesn't sound like the same all the time. It has a life to it. And Cthulhu was so easy to program with that.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for the people who recommended it before.
That is an interesting feature, having the ability to pre-program the velocity so you get a little bit of variation. Never thought about that, but that's very powerful to have. Take note of that. That's interesting. Okay, cool. All right. I'm gonna John wrote in to change racks. So you change your rack spaces using the integration, the extension on your Novation, which is a little different than sending PC messages or CC messages. It's kind of a separate thing. Or you use your Stream Deck.
I used to have the Stream Deck for it, but now with the Novation, it's very cool and very easy to see your pieces on top. On the displays, you can see the titles, and when you choose a piece, it automatically shows you all the variations that you have in a piece.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was very easy for me. In the live video, I'm still using a foot controller called AirStep, where I just I can step through the. But that was not PC. That was like I think in Gig Performer there's a possibility to say
global MIDI mapping.
This key brings you to the next rack space or next variation, something like that.
Yes.
You can program that. So I was doing that with the foot pedal, but I'm trying to minimize as much as possible. And for that reason, the Novation keyboard is, for me, works really nice.
Yeah, 100% agree. There's something irreplaceable about direct integration. I guess this is technically not direct, but it's not going to get any closer. It's so seamless. Yeah. So it's a really worthwhile extension.
Yeah.
All right, this is the question that I ask everybody, but I like to throw it out there. If you were going to give a brand new Gig Performer user one bit of advice for getting started on the right foot, what would you tell them?
I would. This is what I did, and it helped me a lot. If you come from Mainstage or from other DAW, try to do the same thing and see how easy it is and what kind of new possibilities you will get.
Yes. Yeah, that's really helpful. And I think this comes back to what you were saying earlier, where, you're saying like do the same thing. It's like, so like do what you set out to do in the first place, which was build something that works. For most people, that's going to be what it is. Build something that works and feel the change, feel the difference.
Exactly. And I started to for me it was clear that I want to use it as a tool to play in that band live. So I started from the music. What I'm, if you listen to the record, to the album, it's a lot of overdubs. I just played the Rose at one time, I played a solo later, put in. It was a classical album production, and then the task was pretty easy. I want to have as much as possible of those sounds played live, and that was my starting point. And what also helped a lot was just to sit down with a large piece of paper and write it down. What do I want to have? What should be the connections to where? After my first single, after my initial sessions with Gig Performer, after knowing how the wiring works and the panels, I could, just draw it on paper and see how everything might work. Or on the iPad, I was on the iPad. I was drawing like lines and the modules, trying to figure out how can I connect it. And that helps also, to make it quickly on paper, because sometimes you just get lost in all these possibilities.
Yeah, man, you're like speaking directly to my heart. I'm gonna play this clip for my students because I'm like, this is the meat, Ali. This is where it's at. You're drawing it out. You're planning it. You have intention, man. It's so beautiful. Yeah, and friends, this is like we interview so many professionals here, and this is the uniting sauce. Everybody who comes through here who has something that they feel proud to show says the same thing. It usually starts by saying, well, I knew that I wanted to be able to do this. And then there's some iteration of I drew it on my iPad or I labeled it out this way. And I'm just like, man, that's where it's at. There's so much power there. So much power there. Ali, for folks who... Go ahead.
Yeah. There was one very interesting quote. One of your guests said in one interview that he just doesn't care about how it looks. He just tosses everything in there and just connects it wiring, and doesn't care what color it is. It just the audio is important, that it sounds good and works.
Yes.
That's all. I can't do that because I'm also visual.
Mhm.
I want to have the visual experience also, and it
Mhm.
helps me to to keep focused and structured. And also with innovation, it helps you also to bring more structure into your building your stuff. But for some folks, it might work. Just just toss everything in and connect it, and
Yeah.
it should sound good. That's the important thing.
Yeah, and it goes back to your project too. I mean, if you're doing something where you need to be able to find stuff quickly, it's a different ball game. There are people who don't use any knobs on their rack spaces because they don't need them.
Exactly. I mean, I could show, yeah.
The front panel.
I could show you one more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The front panel rack space that I use directly mirrors my MIDI controller because it helps me remember where stuff is. For no other reason. I just drop it into everything that I build, so I know what I'm controlling when. You were going to show us one other thing?
No, I was just saying that I have projects where I just have one panel. The rack space is always the same. It's just one contact program with different sounds, and each sound has a different MIDI channel, and all you see is that that contact thing with MIDI channel. That's it. And
yeah, because that's sometimes all that's needed.
I don't need more than that. There was a piece. Yeah, I posted a photo of it where I play in an orchestra piece.
Yes.
And it's just a contact program with 10 different sounds. That's it.
I love it. Well, Ali, thanks so much for being with us. If folks want to hear more of your music, get in touch with you, hire you to film, to score their next film, how do people get in touch with you?
Okay. On my website, you can see askin.info. And I'm also, you can see my stuff on Spotify, Apple Music, and all the streaming platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Ali. It's an honor to interview you and have you share your expertise. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, and thank you guys for watching.
Yeah. All right, folks, we'll be back next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard, with Leo Diaz in the smallest GP rig we've seen yet. Have a wonderful rest of your day.